Welcome to Angels Among Us, the podcast where we share real stories of angelic encounters. Each episode, you'll hear firsthand accounts of divine protection, guidance, and miraculous interventions that remind us we're never truly alone. Whether through a whisper of comfort, an unseen hand of protection, or an unmistakable presence, angels are closer than we think. Join us as we explore these powerful experiences of angels, both seen and unseen. Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Angels Among Us. We are joined today not by Michaela. As you can see, she's not sitting next to me. This is my sister, Heidi. Heidi and Michaela don't get along, so that's why Michaela... Totally kidding.
One would probably think that just based on our history early on, but I will we got balloons flying.
How did that happen? Listen, I don't know how to edit that out either, so if you're watching on YouTube, congratulations. Happy birthday.
That's right. Hold on, though. I do want to say, in case people are worried that I don't like her, I specifically remember on your wedding day saying to her, it was always you, and there was never anybody else in my brother's life that would make him as happy as you. So I'm sad that she's not here.
Yeah, she's pretty busy, and every now and then it's just going to be me doing the interview, and I'm really sorry, but it's a good thing that we have you here.
That's
because
right.
People won't just watch if it's just me, I promise.
Who are we interviewing?
Surprise, surprise, you're telling your story.
It's me. Okay, good. I'm glad I came then.
And our listeners just listened to Gary and Andrea. And you are a very specific angel in their life. Except on this particular story, you're not going to be talking about Gary and Andrea. Or Andrea and Alex. Sorry. But keep listening, Alex and Andrea, if you're listening.
That'll come.
Yep. We figured we'd spread it out a little bit. People get kind of sick of just listening to Wyatt's, you know? So...
that's a shame, because we are good entertainment.
At least we like to think so.
Yeah, we are, for sure.
But Heidi has a pretty awesome story. And I've noticed I say awesome story on here a lot. A lot of times these stories, they're not awesome in the moment. And it's, life is awesome, but sometimes it's really not so awesome either. But when we're in the moments where it's awesome, we can look back and be like, that is part of my story, and my story is awesome.
Sure.
So,
yep.
But yeah, I kind of noticed that in some of the editing and stuff, because some of these stories that we're hearing and going to be hearing are tragic stories. And, but it is incredible to be able to sit back after the fact and be able to look back and see that God was with us the entire time. And
yeah, for sure.
That's the whole point of all of this. So people are sick of listening to me talk, but let's get to it. Okay, Heidi, give us a little bit of background about yourself really quick first, and then go ahead and get into your angels. And not just me. I know I'm probably the brightest angel in your life, but probably...
Again, people are sick of hearing about you, so it's time for me and my other angels.
Let's get the focus elsewhere.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Take it away.
Okay. So I am Heidi. I am Brent's oldest sister. And I have stories upon stories about him. But again, not about him. This one's about me. And so I am the mother of 5 children. I raised 4. That's a teaser for the next one. Next time I'm on, I'll get to talk about Alex. But I have 4 kids at home. They're 18, 16, 14, and 12. 1 girl and 3 boys. One is about to graduate high school. So we're really busy with all of that fun stuff that's coming up.
Okay, real quick.
And yeah.
That was impressive. You know all their ages. Like
Yeah, I know. It's because I had
that's
them every 2 years. So don't ask me their birthdays because I'll have to start at the top and work my way down.
then you'll have to start thinking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm married. We just celebrated year 20. So we're old, although I got told the other day I did not look 42. So I'm pretty happy about that one. And I we live in St. Louis. We just moved here 3 years ago and we love it here, except for the fact that we are away from family. That's the part that's hard. But we love St. Louis and we love everything about it. Almost. I don't like the humidity, but it's fun. So this story that I'm going to tell happened 15 years ago. So this, I had to really go back and like jog my memory. But also, I was so thankful because when this happened, shortly after all of this happened, I had written it all down. You know, like the blogging days, their blogging was so popular back in maybe 2008, 6, 7, 9, 10. And this happened in 2010. And so I was able to blog it all and put it all down. And I'm so thankful for it because I've been able to go back and kind of remind myself of a lot of the miracles that happened that week. So if those of you that are watching on YouTube, if you see me look down, it's because I'm actually going to be referring to this book, this journal that I have. And I also have notes on my computer ready to also help me because I wanted to try and remember and share everything that I felt was really important. So this would have been Thanksgiving weekend of 2010. So a little bit of background at that time in my life. I had just had my third baby, so Cohen, and he was only 5 weeks old. And when I was pregnant with Cohen and his older brother, I had dealt with kidney stones with both boys. So I had anybody that has ever gone through kidney stones knows how awful it is. And it was the worst pain I've ever felt. Like I would have so many more babies if I could, as opposed to having to pass kidney stones because these things are awful. And so I had gone through kidney stones with his brother and I'd gone through kidney stones with him. And I had him, and he was only 5 weeks old at this time. And I was getting ready to have a surgery the following week on Thursday to blast more stones, like to get lithotripsy in my right side. And so I was like ready for all this to happen. So then Thanksgiving weekend happened. We were in Ellensburg with our family. And Saturday night of that Thanksgiving weekend, I had started to feel right kidney pain. And it was pretty severe where I was feeling it. I was like, oh man, I think I'm passing more stones. I know what that felt like. And I just kind of like brushed it off like, oh, if I could just get to Thursday, I'll be fine. And then that kind of went away throughout the night. And then the next day, I remember we got up, we went to church, and then probably shortly after church, we drove home. And then all of a sudden, like my left kidney started hurting. And which I was like, oh man, now I have kidney stones in both sides. And I just kept thinking I have to be passing stones. And I just decided to like kind of just wait it out. I was like, I can do this. I can wait it out for a couple of days. So that night I started, but when we got home, it was about a 2-hour drive away. I started fevering and I just thought it was like a part of just like feeling really crappy, like with my kidney stones. I called my doctor and I told him that I was passing more stones and he prescribed me some more pain meds. And I did not mention my fever at all, which hold on to that thought because I've learned very quickly that fever equals infection. And I didn't know at that time, which sounds crazy, but that's exactly, I did not know that's what that meant.
Well, you might have known, but it's in those moments it's probably not
Oh, I
something that
know.
registers, or
No, not at
you
all. I
know,
was just like, oh, I'm sick. I'm not feeling well. I'm passing kidney stones. I've done this before. I can do it again, right? Kind of thing. So then Monday morning, I started throwing up like crazy. Like I could not keep anything down and I had unbearable pain on both sides of my kidneys. And I remember, I have a 5-week-old baby. And if you've ever held a tiny baby, like snuggling up with them, like I was just able to sleep all day long. And then I'd probably get up and like throw up and then I would come back and he just slept right next to me. I just remember being under the covers, being in so much pain, but also being being able to sleep. And I would like try feeding him, but then I started to notice that my milk supply was going down. So I remember Jared having to take him and feed him and then bringing him back to me. And we would both just like sleep in the bed together, but I still had this fever and that was all day Monday. And then Tuesday, I couldn't keep anything down still. I still had a fever. And my husband, Jared, tried keeping me hydrated, but like nothing was helping. And I had never felt pain like that before. And anytime I'm sick, Brent, I don't know if you do this, but when I am sick, I still like to this day call mom. And I'm like, I was on the phone. I remember calling her and just crying and being like, my kidneys hurt so bad. And there's nothing like she could do for me except at that time, just do exactly what I needed her to do, which was be on the other line and like say, I'm so sorry, honey. I wish I was there to help you. Like, you're going to be able to get through it. And just having that phone call, I think alone just helped comfort me a little bit. Then I think I like fell asleep again, probably. I woke up late Tuesday afternoon, and this detail is kind of gross, but it's also crucial. I woke up, grabbed the throw up bowl that I probably had on the side of my bed. I stand up and I'm like throwing up in this bowl, and I'm throwing up like really dark, like darkish brown, grainy looking stuff. And I was like thinking, what did I eat? Like, I have not eaten in 2 days. How is this coming out of me? And then I completely lost bladder control. Like, just started standing there and peeing my pants. And I was like, that is so weird, so crazy. But still, I think because I was like completely out of it or something, I still didn't think that that was like super important to tell my doctor or something. And so, and I honestly probably was telling Jared, like, don't worry about it. I'll be fine. I'm going to be fine. And so later that night, we called my doctor, and I was really close to him. And I called him and I just said, I finally told him that I had a fever. And he said, you probably have a kidney infection. You can go into the ER tonight or come into my office the next morning. Now, if I asked any of you, what would you rather do? Go into the ER and deal with waiting for hours upon hours to be seen, or go to your doctor's office the next day and have him probably prescribe you something and tell you you're going to be fine? Like, in my brain, logically, I was like, well, I'm going to just go to his office in the next morning. And so obviously looking back, I wish I would have done something sooner, but I had this ridiculous idea that I could handle it. I was just a mom of 3. I think that I had this idea that like, oh, I can do anything. I'm a mom of 3. I have to like prove to myself and the world. When you're a young mom, like, you think crazy things, and then you get older and you're a lot smarter. But I just remember thinking like, I want to be strong. Like, I want to be strong for my kids. And, but what I didn't realize is that obviously I was entering some very dangerous territory. So Wednesday morning, I got up, went to the doctor's office, and I apparently looked terrible because they got me back in a room right away. And the nurse tried taking my blood pressure, and she said that it was 80/40. Now, today, in a little bit of my research, like, I know that 80/40 is low, but I just decided today to Google like 80/40 blood pressure, and it was in like big letters, like dangerously low. Do not like go to the hospital, do something, call somebody. And it is not good, basically, is what Google was trying to say about this. And she had taken it a few times, and then she was asking me like, are you sure that this is like, is your blood pressure normally low? And I said, no, I like actually really prided myself on having like really good blood pressure, even all the way throughout my pregnancies. Like, I really was proud of myself for having good blood pressure. I don't know if I could really handle that, like control it, but I did. And then another nurse came in and she tried to find an IV site, like tried to put an IV in. And that was another thing that I prided myself. I have amazing veins, and I always have nurses compliment my veins. And she could not find a vein in me, obviously, because I was so dehydrated. And she eventually got an IV site in me, it looked horrendous. But she got something in me, and they started pumping me with fluids. And my doctor said, if you don't look like $1,000,000 before, like after these 2 bags of fluid, you're going to the hospital. And I was like, okay. I remember being there for 2 hours, like laying on the bed, probably in and out of like sleeping and awake. And I remember hearing him out in the hall, basically say, like, talking to the hospital and saying, what do you mean you don't have room for her? Like, you have to find room for her. Put her in pediatrics. She has to be at the hospital right now. And I remember just being like, as much as I could be aware of it, being thankful that he was fighting for me. And the reason why he suggested that I go into pediatrics was because my 5-week-old baby, he's like, somebody can help take care of the baby while she's also getting the care that she needs. And so that's what we did. I went to the hospital. They took me right back and did a CT scan and then took me to pediatrics. They were trying to obviously figure out what was wrong with me and where the infection was and all of this that was happening. So a lot of like tests were kind of being done at the time. And so when I went into pediatrics, there was a nurse there and her name was Tristan. And Tristan is my first angel of the story. She became somebody that I just felt like, I feel like God put her on this shift on this particular day to help take care of me, because there was a bond that I had with her that I could not describe. It was just not a regular relationship. I immediately felt connected to her. And from this point on, I actually don't remember a whole lot of what happened to me over the next few days. And at the beginning of, I think after I had this whole experience that I'm going to continue to share, I had a really hard time not understanding like why I couldn't remember everything. I mean, I understood why, but I had a hard time wrapping my brain around it. I was like, how can I not remember half of what happened to me in that hospital room? And like, it just felt really scary to know that your life happened, but you have zero recollection of it. And so I really felt that after all this happened, I asked my husband if he could write down his experience. And then the same time I was writing down my experience. And then we kind of like put it together. So in this book that I have that I printed for my blog, it has like the day, and then it has a little paragraph of what Jared said happened to me that day, and then like a little paragraph of what I remembered. And so I'm not going to read you obviously everything, but I do want to like share his experience first, because he's not here also. Him and Brent don't get along either. Just kidding. But no,
Not
so
true.
I know. So I'm going to read like his part, and then I just kind of want to share what happened to me. So this is Wednesday, December 1st. He said, when Heidi got to her room, they gave her 2 more bags of fluid. Her heart rate was around 120 to 130 range. Normal range is 60 to 90. So that's a resting heart rate. Okay. From 2 to 4 p.m., her heart rate got up into the 150 range. They gave her about 6 more bags of fluid throughout the day. So the only thing that I remember from this day, this night, is receiving like a blessing from Jared, and to be comforted to know that my children would be taken care of. And obviously a mom, and especially a new mom, like I was sick, yes, but I was so worried about my kids. At the time I had a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a brand new baby. And so obviously going into the hospital, I was like, if my husband's here, who's taking care of my kids? And I was just really worried about them. But I just remember being so grateful that I felt comfort knowing that they were going to be taken care of. Okay, and then that night, Jared says her heart rate got below 100 and her blood pressure was stable. She had a fever of 102.8. She had kidney failure. Heidi's parents drove over from Ellensburg to be with her and to help out with the kids. So from this night, this is a night that I remember waking up in the middle of the night and I like could not breathe very well. And I was crying and almost having like this panic attack that my chest hurt so bad. And I just remember completely, if anybody's really had a full-blown panic attack, they know like how quickly you're breathing, you can't get control. And I remember nurses all around me. And then there was a really special nurse named Terry, and this is my angel number 2. He helped to calm my panic attack. Like she came over and I remember her whispering to me very quietly and helping me breathe. She had me imagine like tulips opening in a field and then closing, but I was the one that was controlling those tulips. And to this day, that is still an exercise that I use if I have any family or friends who are going through a panic attack. Like I help them through that. And so Terry has like her ways totally have carried on throughout the last 15 years of my life. It's amazing how that worked. And early the next morning, right before she left off of her shift, she came and talked to me and she said that she was a Christian and she wanted to pray with me and for me. And I just remember that being the most beautiful, sincere prayer that I heard. Like it was just so sweet and so genuine. And she didn't have to do that, but she really wanted to. And I loved that she did that with me and for me. That morning also, my urologist came in to tell me that I was going to have surgery. And he asked my nurse something. And I remember looking at them, like talking, kind of whispering. And she said to him, I don't want to talk about this in front of her. And then they left to go out in the hall. And I think that was the first time that I really started to realize that I was like really sick. And it was kind of scary because I was like, why don't they want to talk about what's happening to me in front of me? Like that felt really scary. Okay, Thursday day, this is December 2nd. Jared said Heidi's heart rate was in the 115 to 125 range. She had fluid in her lungs. She couldn't eat or drink anything because of her scheduled surgery at 1 p.m. The surgery was to put nephrostomy tubes in her back to her kidneys to drain her urine because her kidneys had failed. Okay, so this day I remember being angry, like so mad that these sweet nurses would not give me any water. And I wanted nothing more than to just drink water. And I asked them, will you please let me just swish some water around in my mouth? I promise you I will not drink it. I just want to swish water in my mouth because I felt really like cotton mouthy and just like angry. And they finally let me swish water, and I kept doing it over and over and over again. And I just remember thinking like, I will never take drinking water for granted. Like it is the most beautiful gift to be able to drink water. And so I was like off and on, in and out during those hours before my surgery. But I remember that just being like really angry that I couldn't drink water. Okay, so then Jared says they started Heidi's surgery at 1 p.m. and it lasted until 6:30 p.m. She got 2 tubes placed in her back through her kidneys. The doctor that performed the surgery told me that he had done hundreds of those surgeries and that it was the most difficult. Her kidneys weren't enlarged like other people's kidneys usually are. So what I remember about this surgery is clearly they didn't knock me out completely, because I remember laying on my stomach, obviously because they had to drill holes like through my back, because a lot of people don't really know, but that's where you get to your kidneys, is through your back. So I laid on my stomach, and they were, I think, like putting me in and out of like a x-ray machine so that they could see exactly like where they were going with the holes and drilling and all that stuff. And I remembered wanting to get up to like turn my face because my neck was hurting to go the other way. And nurses freaked out on me. They're like, no, Heidi, don't move. And I'm like thinking to myself, I literally thought, do they think I'm going to get up and run out of here? Like, I just want to turn my head. But I was able to thankfully like fall back asleep because, yeah, I just thought it was weird that I was still kind of awake at that time, but obviously I couldn't feel anything.
Why do you think they didn't just put you out?
I have no idea. That's a really good question for somebody that's not me, because I don't know much about the medical field.
Well, there must be an answer, but
Yeah, there has to be an answer. Anyways, this, like Jared said, this surgery allowed tubes to be from my kidneys to drain into like bags that my urine would fill into these bags because my kidneys weren't functioning normally. So it wasn't going into my bladder. It had to go into these like external bladders on the outside that they pinned to the side of my bed. Because obviously once it got heavy, it would start to pull on the tube that was in my back. And they would have to undo those and like drain my urine all the time. It was interesting. I'm so thankful for that surgery. I'm so thankful for modern medicine, because I think I would have been dead already if they wouldn't have been able to do that surgery. Okay, Thursday evening, Jared says after surgery, Heidi started to demand ice and grape juice. She slowly started to wake up more, but her breathing became more difficult. They put her on oxygen and she still had a fever of 102.8. Okay, so this is kind of a really funny story. I apparently loved grape juice after this whole thing. And I was demanding grape juice constantly. Like my mom said that I would tell a nurse that I want grape juice and I would drink it all the way down by the time they were left the room, and then I would ask for more. A story that I was reminded of is one time she said, like, obviously I was like a little in and out of it. And my mom said that I had my eyes closed and a nurse asked like, Heidi, is there anything I can get you? And I said, get me a big cup of that grape juice and beam me up, Scotty. And I like pointed to the air. And I think everybody laughed, which is funny because like we're not Star Trek people. Like I have no idea where that came from.
I don't even know where that was from.
I think it's from Star Trek. That's what I think it's from. And we never watched Star Trek growing up, so it was so funny that that was like in my subconscious mind, and I felt like beaming me up Scotty was important with grape juice. I don't know. And then I remember this other sweet like assistant one time, he comes into my room and he was like, "Hey, Heidi, is there anything I can get you?" And he's like, "Let me guess. You want some grape juice?" And I was like, "How does he know that I want grape juice?" And I said, "Yeah, how did you know?" And he goes, "I'm going to have to go to another floor because you've cleared our entire floor out of grape juice." I was thinking, really? That's crazy. Um, Also, another side note, fast forward about a few months after that, I ended up having 12 cavities. My guess is from all that grape juice because there was nobody brushing my teeth. I don't think there was. But anyways, that happened from that. Okay, so Thursday night, Jared said that Heidi started to have pretty bad anxiety attacks. Her heart rate elevated and her breathing became weaker. Friday morning, he said Heidi's body turned a grayish color. She looked terrible. Her breathing rate was very high and her heart rate was in the 150s. They made the decision to put a PICC line, which is a peripherally inserted central catheter, and to move her to ICU. He said it took them an hour to perform the PICC line surgery. We started making phone calls to family and things started to get scary. We were all getting more and more worried about her. They gave her a BiPAP machine to help her breathe, and they started giving her Lasix through her PICC line to help remove the fluid from her body. This is one of those days that I have very, very little memory of. I don't remember hardly any of it other than my arm getting messed with a little bit when they put the PICC line in. Then he goes on to say, Heidi had to wear the BiPAP machine to help her breathe. She wasn't breathing very well on her own, so it forced air into her lungs. Her heart rate was around 120 to 125. The cardiologist came to see her. They did an ultrasound on her heart, an EKG, and chest x-rays. The cardiologist believed that she suffered a mild heart attack from all the stress on her body. Her heart was enlarged and it was pumping at 35%. Her breathing rate was 35 to 40 breaths per minute. The average adult resting breathing rate is between 12 and 20 breaths a minute. The nurses warned me that if Heidi didn't show signs of progress, that the doctors were considering putting her into a medically induced coma. The bishop came to visit and that's Jared talking, gave him a blessing. It was much needed and very comforting. Then he said Heidi's dad, brothers, and sisters arrived from Ellensburg, and then his dad had come that night from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Heidi stabilized, but she still had a long road ahead. The infection in her body was still present. I remember when I was writing down what I could remember from this day, I remember looking at it and being like, I had an EKG and a heart, like a scan on my heart. Like, I was like, Jared, are you sure that you're telling the right story? And he's like, yes. Zero recollection of that. I had no idea that they did any of that with my heart. But I do remember the BiPAP machine and getting severe anxiety with this BiPAP machine. Now, like a lot of people they know what a CPAP machine is, that, gently puts oxygen into your nose to breathe while you're sleeping at night. But a BiPAP machine is this mask that completely covers your nose and your mouth and forces air into your mouth. And I had written that it felt like if we were driving down the highway at 80 miles an hour and you'd stuck your head out the window, and like that's what it felt like. It was like forceful air going into you, and I hated it. And every time I would go to take off this mask, an alarm would signal and nurses would come in and they would say, you have to keep it on. But I hate it. I had so much anxiety.
I can feel my chest like tightening, like
yes.
Thinking of that is, I'm not an anxious person at all, but that's giving me the heebie-jeebies right now.
Yeah. And you know what's kind of crazy? Side note about this is I struggle to this day to snorkel. I get
to stick your head out the window going 80 miles an hour?
No, to snorkel like when we're on vacation, I have a hard time having that. It almost is this PTSD trigger where I completely panic when I'm in the water until I'm able to calm myself down. And then I'm able to be okay. But I didn't recognize that. And somebody pointed that out to me. That's probably what it was. And it makes a lot of sense. Okay. So then Saturday, this is December 4th. This was my baby's 1-month birthday. Jared said, Heidi began to stabilize. Her heart rate was in the 100 to 110 range. Her blood pressure was normal. However, her oxygen levels were still weak and her lungs had fluid in them. Her heart was also still weak. She was able to sit up in a chair out of bed. I remember like moments about this day. Like I remember seeing a few siblings at a time. I think that at that time I was in a shared room. Do you remember that, Brent? Were you there?
Yeah, I
I
remember
think I was in
seeing
a shared
you.
room.
Yeah, I think when I first saw you, you were in a shared room,
Yeah,
and I also remember looking at you and being very caught off guard the first time I saw you.
yeah. Apparently I didn't look good. Hospitals don't make me look good or something. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen you on some pretty not look good days, and yeah, that one
These
was
topped it.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I was able to see, yeah, so because I was sharing another room, there wasn't a whole lot of room in there. So I remember like you guys having to come in, just a couple of you at a time to see me. Um, and Michaela, my sister-in-law, gave me a foot massage. She wasn't even my sister-in-law at the time, and she still wanted to give me a foot massage. Like that was scoring some points. So, but I probably fell asleep. I'm going to be honest. But she did massage my feet, and I'm sure it was
So some would
amazing.
call her an angel
I know.
in that moment.
I'm not even kidding. Let's do it. Why can't? Why not? Um, I also remember waking up and seeing like my father-in-law being there, who remember I said is from Tulsa, Oklahoma, because I remember thinking like, why is he here? Like I don't remember him planning a visit and him being there and still not fully comprehending like how close to death that I was. And then I also remember there were some friends that came. My grandma and my aunt were there. This is one of my most tender memories of my grandma is she was sitting right next to me by my bed, and I just remember asking her to tell me a story. My grandma used to tell us the best stories when we were growing up, and a lot of times when we were like falling asleep. And there's a lot of stories I don't ever know the ending of because I would fall asleep before she would get done telling them, but I'm sure they were amazing. And there was something very comforting about having her there. And my grandma's hands were one of my favorite things ever. And I just remember holding her hand and asking her if she would tell me a story. And she did, and it was really comforting. And I remember falling asleep. Again, don't know the end of that story, but I'm sure it was amazing. And I just loved that she was there by my side at that time. That night, also, our bishop came. And for those of you that may not know what a bishop is, it's like in our church, it's like our minister or a priest or a pastor who kind of takes care of our family. And he was or our church family, and he came to be there with Jared. And I'm going to tell you more about that story in a second. So Sunday, December 5th, Jared says they moved Heidi to a private room, which we were grateful for. That day she stabilized and her heart rate was below 100. Her blood pressure was normal, but she still had a slight fever. Her color in her skin started to return. She took her very first walk down the hall Sunday morning with the help of a wheelchair. She was still very weak. This day, I remember more friends coming to visit, but I have zero idea about what we talked about. I have no idea. I also remember trying to walk down the hall for the first time, and it was incredibly difficult. And I remember thinking, like, I am so weak. Like, what is happening to me? I can barely walk. And for those of like anybody that knows me, like I've been active my whole life. And so not being able to walk down a hall without being winded or completely tired or having complete like muscle fatigue was really humbling for me. I just could not believe that that's how weak I was getting. And I do remember walking down the hall and having nurses line the halls, like whoever was on that hall, and they were so excited for me. They were like, Heidi, you're up and you're walking. And I was just like, I kind of felt like a celebrity because I'm like, yes, I'm here, like a parade or something. But I just remember them being so excited. And they were just like, it's a miracle that you're walking. Like, it's amazing that you're able to walk. I'm so happy for you. And I was like excited too. But I also, after that, I got back to my room and I was exhausted. Like, you would have thought I had just ran a marathon. I was exhausted. I could not believe how tired that made me. Um, so then Monday, December 6th, Jared said Heidi's heart rate was in the low 90s, her blood pressure was stable, and the infection shows it's gone. She had a very hard day emotionally due to lack of sleep the previous night. The doctor indicated that they believed the infection started from E. coli. The nurse states that in her chart, the heart attack was changed to broken heart syndrome. They started medication to strengthen her heart muscles. Her color started to return to her lips. um, Jayla, my sister-in-law, came to give her a facial. She was able to take a shower and she still had to wear the BiPAP machine at night, but due to another anxiety attack, it had been removed for the rest of the night. This was Monday, and I remember more friends coming to visit. And I even had a dear friend who bring me her laptop, and she was like, "Here, you can watch movies." She got me a laptop with DVDs because this was 2010, remember? We didn't have all the streaming services that were available today. So being in a hospital in 2010, not ideal. Um, it would probably, I mean, not that I want to go to the hospital now, but it might be a little bit better now. A lot more streaming services available. So she brought that. And I remember this day, like, I missed my babies so bad. Like, I wanted to make sure that they were okay. I just wanted to see them. I wanted to hold my 5-week-old, my 1-month-old baby. And I think that I called my mom and I was like, please bring him to me. Like, please bring Cohen to me. I just want to hold him. And two great things happened that day. Like we said, my sister-in-law gave me a facial, which was amazing, and I got to shower. And I don't know if you've been without a shower for however many days I was in that situation, but I remember thinking, like, this is the greatest shower of my life. But I also remember that completely exhausted me also. And like Jared had to help me like stand in the shower and had to basically bathe me. It was, again, a really humbling experience. That night I had an anxiety attack because I was wearing this BiPAP machine and somebody came in to like, this man came in the middle of the night to like fix something with my machine. And all I remember is waking up and having a man almost like reaching over me, completely threw me into a panic attack. My nurse came in. She was so angry at him. Why would you do that to her? And while she's sleeping, she's like, you don't need this stupid machine anymore. And she just like threw this thing off me. It was like, we're done. You can breathe. We're done. And I was like, okay. So,
He
that was
was
great.
not an angel.
No, he was not. And I think he got scolded. It was not great.
If he's listening,
Uh,
I'm sure he's been an angel to somebody else.
yeah, maybe, but not me. um, I put in my notes here too that I remember just having Jared by my side, like, gave me so much comfort, just knowing that he was there. And every time he touched me, it just felt very comforting, whether he was touching my hand or my arm or my leg. I just remember feeling very comforted knowing that he was like right there by my side. And I just felt like that was an important note to make. I'll talk more about him a little bit later. But Tuesday, December 7th, Heidi's able to walk more with the help of a walker. They removed her oxygen during the day. Her girlfriends came to visit her and gave her a pedicure. Her oxygen was removed at night to see how she did, and she passed. So I guess this is the morning that I woke up and I like begged my mom to bring me Cohen, and she did. And I guess I held him for hours. I don't remember a whole lot of that. I do remember like having them lay him right next to me, and I just sobbed, cried. I was like so happy that he could be there with me. And it just brought me a lot of comfort. I guess he stayed there with me for a few hours, just letting me just hold him. I have a picture of me like literally looking like I'm half dead, but like holding my baby and like me kind of like asleep and me holding this bottle to feed him. It's a really sad picture, but I'm glad that I was able to hold him. Also on this day, my two first angel nurses, so Tristan and Terry, came to see me. And when they walked into the room and saw me, oh, also at this time, they had moved me to a private room, which was awesome because more people were able to come into this room and see me. And it was a good thing for me, I think. I think it helped raise my spirits a little bit that I was able to have my own private room where all these people came to see me. So when Tristan came in, the second I saw her, she ran to me, hugged me, and just cried, like sobbed. And she's like, "You look so good." And I remember thinking like, girlfriend, have you seen me? Like, I look awful. But that also, because I'm like, are you sure? And she goes, Heidi, you look so much better than you did when I had you in the pediatrics unit. Now, another note about Tristan is I found out later that she was the one that was lobbying for me to be moved out of pediatrics. She was like, we can do no more for her. This is ridiculous. Quit trying to like, she's basically like, she's above our pay grade. Like, we have to get her out of here and into ICU because she's not getting better. And I remember asking her, like, what made you do that? Like, why did you fight for me to be in pediatrics? And she's like, because I've never seen a living person look the color that you looked. She's like, living, thriving people are not gray. And she's like, you were gray. And I knew immediately that you needed to be somewhere else. And so I was really thankful for her. Like, I really truly believe that both Tristan and Terry were two of the people that helped save my life. Like, there was a team of people, but those two were really my first line of like advocates. They were like, she needs something else. And it was amazing to have them be there for me. That was a really sweet reunion. I loved seeing them. Then I think that next day I was able to go home because kind of the journal part of that part kind of is done, and it just starts talking about how we got it set up so I could have a hospital bed in my living room because they weren't wanting me to go up and down the stairs. They sent me home with a walker. Remember, I still had my nephrostomy tubes at this time, so they needed to be able to pin the nephrostomy bags onto the side of my bed. And so sleeping in a king size bed wasn't going to work. Like, I had to sleep in a twin size bed so that both tubes could fit on the sides and be pinned. And I remember also like getting home and being so grateful that I was able to be home, because they said that right now, all you need to do is just get stronger, and being at home is going to lift your spirits, and you'll be able to get stronger and just get better at home. Like, they didn't really need to have me in the hospital anymore. And they did have like a nurse come a couple times. They taught Jared how to like flush my port because I still had the PICC line, and they taught him how to administer IVs, antibiotics to me. And so he kind of became like Nurse Jared for a long time. He really was amazing and took care of me during that time. So when I got home, I remember my house being spotless, like spotless, probably cleaner than I
You're
had ever
welcome.
done it before. Oh, it was you? Did you guys stay at my house?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. See, there's
but
so maybe
let's be honest, it wasn't me.
no, I know it wasn't. It was some amazing sisters of our church that decided to go over there and help clean the house. And these women were amazing. Like, throughout this whole time, these women were helping take care of my kids. They had my house cleaned. They were bringing in meals, like, for my family. I remember meals coming in every day for like what felt like months after that. Like, they just stepped in, and so that I wouldn't have to worry about it, because part of my healing was to like also mentally heal. Like, I could not take care of everybody else while trying to heal myself. And so that was such a huge blessing. There were a couple things that, like, miracles that happened during this, and I want to share really quick. So going back to my bishop, he was a truly inspired, amazing man. And when Jared called him the night to come and see me, Jared said, or our bishop he told us this later when he met with us a few weeks after I got home. He said that he immediately dropped to his knees after getting off the phone with Jared, and he asked Heavenly Father what Heidi needs specifically. And he said very distinctly, he heard Heavenly Father say to him, she needs church music. And he was kind of like, okay, I'm going to get her church music. So he called Jared back, and he was like, does Heidi have a way to listen to church music? And he's like, well, she can listen to it on my phone. Again, remember, no Spotify, no Pandora at that time. It was kind of like, I don't even know how, but he had church music on his phone. And he's like, but she's sharing a room. At this time, I was sharing a room, and she doesn't have a way to listen to it, like, just through earphones. I have earphones on. And my bishop's like, that's fine. I'm going to go get some. So he went and got some, and he brought it. And this is also around the time that I was having those severe panic attacks where nurses were telling Jared they were going to have to put me into a medically induced coma. But my bishop didn't know that. Like, Jared didn't tell my bishop, Heidi's having all these panic attacks. You need to come now, figure out how to help her. That's all he needed to do, was pray about how to help me. And he received an answer immediately. And then he went and listened to this answer. He didn't say, are you sure? Like, how is music going to help her? Like, he just did it. And so the second I started to listen to that church music, I was completely calm. I remember it being a visceral, physical reaction, like putting this church music in my ears and completely being able to calm my breathing. I could feel my heart rate like slow down a little bit. And I just remember being so thankful that this church music was there and how much comfort that it brought me. And I truly believe that's a miracle, that he was able to help with that. Because of that, I did not have to be into a medically induced coma.
Well, and if you think about it, that's not even something that you knew that you needed
No,
at
I
that
had
in
no
that moment.
idea.
It's not like you were sitting there telling people, "I wish I had some church music,"
Right.
right? That came as inspiration directly from Heavenly Father to your bishop.
For sure. Yeah, it's incredible. Um, I also like there were so many people in our church congregation and other people who had heard, like other family members who were praying for me, who were fasting for me, who like I didn't realize how many people were actually praying for me, which it's just amazing to think that all of these people were thinking about me and praying for me, and I know that Heavenly Father like heard their prayers. Um, so also like in my account, I don't mention my parents a whole lot, but I know that they were there, and when they weren't at the hospital with me, like they were being grandma and grandpa to their grandkids so that Jared could be there with me. And I do remember times when like there were maybe some nights, maybe Jared went home and they told Jared to go home and go to sleep, where my parents would take shifts and one would be right by my side and the other would be out in the waiting room. And then they would switch so that the other could sleep. And then as I was reading through this, I remembered that my dad had to leave early and he never got to see me get better. Like he never got to see me in my home looking and feeling better. And when we went home for Christmas a couple weeks later, he was there waiting at the door for me and he just hugged me and like didn't want to let me go and kissed me on the cheek and was just like, I love you. And at first I was kind of like, Dad, like I'm okay. But then all of a sudden it hit me like the last time he saw me, he didn't know if I was going to make it. And so I was really grateful for them and their comfort and knowing that they were there, because if you know my parents, like they will stop and do anything for their kids. Like they have driven across the country for us last minute. They've driven across the country for me. And at this time it was only 2 hours away, but they stopped everything that they were doing to come and be there for me and for my kids. And I'm so grateful for them. And just how grateful I was that my kids had some sort of comfort when Jared and I were in the hospital. I also, so like, there's some of my angels there too, right? And then Jared was obviously one of my biggest angels because he was there with me the whole time and he brought me so much comfort. And he's there trying to be dad and husband and trying to understand everything that's happening to me medically and like probably worrying about work and then just trying to make sure that everything was okay. Like, I don't think that it really showed, or at least I didn't see how worried he was, but I'm sure that he was obviously really worried about what was happening. Um, so when I think later on, they had told us that I had sepsis, and sepsis is basically a bacteria that gets in, or an infection bacteria that gets into your bloodstream, and then it starts spreading throughout your whole body, and then organs start shutting down. So that's why, I went to complete kidney failure. My heart was like losing its mind and like had that minor heart attack or broken heart syndrome or something. It was just starting to affect everything in my body. And so now, thankfully, even 5 years later, they're able to find that people have sepsis so much sooner than they did then, because it's not like the day I got there, they did a couple tests and they're like, oh, she has sepsis. Like that's now they can. But back then they didn't really do it. So it took a lot of doctors. Like I remember seeing infectious disease doctors, all these people who were trying to figure out what was happening to me. I had also had to have a blood transfusion to help my white blood cell count like go up. And after I got home, I like looked up sepsis, and sepsis has a 50% chance of survival rate. Like that's a flip of a coin. Like you live or you don't. Like that's too much of that's not a good ratio for me. And so I remember kind of spiraling at when I got home and thinking like, what if I would have left my husband and my 3 babies here on this earth without me? Like, what if what would they have done? And what if I would have died? And I kind of like spiraled in those thoughts. And then I remember just thinking like, but you are alive and aren't you so blessed? And look at all these people that stepped up for you and all of these angels that came into your life and that you are a miracle. Like, I remember our bishop telling us, like, I thought you were going to die. That night that I left you, I saw people that I knew and I was crying and they said, what is wrong? And he just said, I think we're going to lose one of our own. Like, she's not going to live. And he said, Heidi, you are a miracle. And I was able to change my mindset and be so grateful. But then I also felt like super heavy of like, oh man, like what does this mean for my life? I'm supposed to do something with my life. And I think I'm still constantly trying to figure that out. But I'm just like, just the more I think about it and I'm able to think about it, I just know that what a miracle that was and how grateful I am to be able to like be here and to be able to tell my story and tell all of the amazing angels that happened in my life at that time. It was amazing. And it didn't stop. It wasn't like Heidi got home and then it stopped. Like people kept showing up for us, kept bringing meals, kept taking my kids. I had a sister that came and stayed for a week to help take care of my baby in the middle of the night so that Jared could get up and go to work. Like people were there for us and it was amazing. I'll forever be grateful for all of them.
I want to touch really quick on you being a miracle and being alive. And there's no doubt that God saved your life. And that can be a really hard thing for people to listen to and to hear, because there are people that have lost loved ones that they can't say that, right?
Right.
And for Michaela and I, forever not being able to have our own kids, sometimes it was pretty easy to not be really happy for people when they were getting pregnant or when people around us weren't even trying to get pregnant and they get pregnant. And we can get caught in those thoughts all the time. And Michaela's never had those thoughts, or she's never shown those thoughts. And I've caught myself having those thoughts before. And it's dangerous. And I don't like myself in those moments. Right. But it's still understandable for people to have those thoughts and to wonder why. And I'm here to tell you that it's okay to wonder why, but don't get caught up on the why. Just get caught up on the angels in your life and the blessings in your life, and knowing that you'll get a why someday. You'll get the answers to the why someday. And yeah, I just know that can be so hard. Why did God save this person but not my person? And but I'm so thankful that he saved my big sister. And I remember in the very beginning, like around Thanksgiving and stuff, when you were having some of those pains, I had the thoughts of, oh, suck it up. Like, like quit being a
Well,
wuss.
y'all know why I waited so long. Didn't want to disappoint my brother.
No, but I remember exactly where I was. I mean, knowing that you were in the hospital and stuff. But then when mom and dad called and said, you need to get to see your sister. And in that moment, that's when I was like, wow, this is scary. That was right after you had your heart attack that we found out wasn't a heart attack, I guess, but they said it was congenital heart failure or something. And I remember thinking, driving over with Michaela, thinking that I might not have a big sister after this. And then I felt bad for thinking you were a wuss.
Yeah, it serves you right.
Really quick, can you tell the story about that other church family that I remember hearing about? And I think it's a really powerful story.
Yeah. So I would say maybe 2 or 3 years later, I was a fitness instructor, and I was actually before this time that all of this was happening, and then after I'd been a fitness instructor for a long time. And I got this job at a Nazarene church in Puyallup where I lived. And I had a coworker from the Y. She's the one that got me that job because I think she was going to go on like maternity leave or something. She just decided that she was going to be done, and then she wanted me to kind of take over with her boot camp and kickboxing class at this church. And something that I loved about this church is after every class, we all get in a big circle and we ask for prayer requests. Like, who needs prayers? And so we would do that. We would all go around, we tell people what we needed prayers for, and then like our leader, he would lead us all in prayer. And one time, maybe around Thanksgiving, like I said, like 2 or 3 years later, I was sharing with them all like my story. I just asked him, I said, could I share a message? And he said, yes, absolutely. So I shared a message about how I feel like God was in all of that story and helped save my life, and how grateful I was for him. And after I was like kind of emotional sharing this with them, a couple of them stopped and just looked at me, and I was like, what? And my like boss named Bruce, he said, you were who we were praying for? And I just said, what do you mean? And he's like, a few years ago when Brenda was teaching here, she brought you up, and she said that her dear friend and fellow coworker was in the hospital fighting for her life, and she needs our prayers. And he's like, I think to at least 2, 3, 4 classes, like, we were praying for you. And they had no idea that I was going to eventually be their kickboxing and boot camp instructor, but they were praying for me. They didn't need to know me personally. They just all gathered around and prayed for me. And I just remember hearing that and sobbing and feeling so grateful that these people of faith like had the faith to pray for me on my behalf, and they didn't even know me. And I truly believe that like the Lord heard their prayers and he heard everybody else's prayers, but it was so sweet that it every time I was there, it always made me want to be a better person, a better Christian, a better like prayer, because I was like, I want to pray for more people, because I don't ever know how that's going to affect them. They could have never met me again in their entire life, but they prayed for me. And then just like a little teeny, like I always call these love notes from my Heavenly Father when he like connects dots for me. Like I remember thinking like, oh, Heavenly Father, I see you. Like, that's amazing that you were able to connect those dots, and how grateful I am that I was able to have that dot connected.
Yeah, people say it all the time. There's power in prayer, but I don't think you really fully understand what that means until you've been on the receiving end of so many prayers. And just hearing, there was times in some of our darkest moments, I had a random lady from work come up to me, and she just told me, I want you to know I'm praying for you. And just hearing that, like that alone gives me strength. And to know that there are people that don't even really know me all that well, but care about me. And that's all part of Heavenly Father's plan and his design. And we are here to receive strength from others, but to also give strength to others. And I can be better at that.
Yeah, me too.
So thank you for sharing your story. It's
do I get to leave you
beautiful.
Thank you. Do I get to leave you with the truth?
Yeah, you didn't let me finish.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just kidding. I totally forgot.
Classic older sister.
No, so Michaela usually likes to ask for some advice from, for people in your situation or that might be dealing with the same thing. So you can give some advice if you want, but then also please end it with a truth, something that you know to be true.
Okay. So I think the advice I would give is from the receiving end of so much service, but also like how we can all be better about serving other people. I think a lot of times we're all waiting for people to to say, this is a classic, let me know if you need anything. Like, mm-hmm. I clearly was not in the position to tell people what I needed, right? But people just stepped in. They just showed up. They brought my family meals. They took care of my kids. They cleaned my house. Like, they just stepped up and did it. They did not wait for me to call them. And it was like that for a long time. And there was one person in particular that I take this example, and I try and be good about it. I'm not always great at it. But people were so afraid that they were imposing on me of getting better, and they would drop off their food and then they would leave. And I if you know me, I crave conversation with people. Like, it was really hard for me to be in my home alone a lot of times because people would have my kids. So I'd be alone and people would not come and just talk to me. And I think they thought that I needed to rest. And I was like, no, I need to talk to people. But this one woman brought food for our family and she sat it on her counter and she came over and just sat next to me and she goes, what do you want to talk about? And I just remember being like, you want to talk to me? And she's like, absolutely. She goes, I just feel like that's exactly what you need right now. She's like, I prayed about what you need and you need to talk to somebody. And I just, again, I like started crying and I was like, I just wanted to talk to somebody. And she was like, then let's do it. Let's just chat. And she sat there with me for a long time. And it reminds me that sometimes maybe if I'm going to take a meal to somebody, maybe I should go above and beyond just a little bit more and pray for them and see specifically what do they need. Do they need something more than just nourishment? Like, do they need some sort of emotional and mental nourishment that I could also maybe provide them? So that was a really big takeaway from that. I think my truth, no, I don't think, I know my truth is that our Heavenly Father knows us and he knows what we need. And so many times he uses other people, our angels, to accomplish these things for us. Like, you were right. I didn't know that I needed music. Jared didn't know that I needed music. My bishop only knew that I needed music because he asked our Heavenly Father and he was told that I needed music. He's the one that knew. And I'm just like, he knew the nurses that I needed that would advocate for me. He knew how to, like, he just knew how to take care of me. And I'm just grateful for that knowledge that out of all the billions of people in the world that, like, he also knows me and he didn't leave me alone in that moment. And I'm grateful for that.
Amen. All right. Now I can say thank you for sharing.
You are welcome.
All right.
Thanks for joining us on Angels Among Us. You can find us on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow along for more stories of everyday miracles and reminders that angels are among us. If you have a story to share, please email or DM us with a brief summary. We'd love to hear from you. And remember, when we are waiting, God is working.